Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Before we start, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you can always change your mind later. But if you stick around, there just might be some cookies in your near future, if you can pry them away from the chameleon. Alright, our first story today comes to us from Tango Tango 112. I didn't have to work overtime? Okay, roger that. Let's jump right in. I am a mariner. My position on the ship is mate. Below me are my deckhands who are responsible for the labor work like painting, grinding, maintenance, line handling, cargo ops, etc. Above me is the chief mate, second in command, and the captain, in charge of everyone and the responsible individual for the entire ship. We are officers and we do the planning for navigation, ship handling, training, payroll, etc. I work for a private company that pays me by a day rate, which is a 12-hour workday. I work 1 month on and 1 month off. Like most industries, we are undermanned, can't hire enough to fill all positions. Now, this ship I work on is even harder to crew up, mainly because of the captain. He's got a notorious reputation for being a jerk. So people find all sorts of ways not to come to this boat. And if they do, they only work one tour and never come back. I joined this ship back in May, and for the last 7 months, it's been kinda hell working for this captain. He's a narcissist, condescends everyone, insults everyone, works us like slaves, never thanks us, just an all-around class act. You know these types of bosses, they never let up. They push you to the limit and just makes you hate work and life. With that said, I've been working 15, sometimes 18 hours a day because we're shorthanded. I'm doing all sorts of work that's not in my job description. I had to do cargo ops, handling mooring lines, maintenance, all in addition to my mate duties. I'm a very hard worker, a team player, and never say no to work. The thing is, we don't get paid for any more than 12 hours of work a day, so all those extra hours I worked are unpaid. It burns me, and I freaking hate it, but like I said, I'm a team player. I want to make sure it's safe for my guys, the operations get completed, and clients stay happy, so I do what is asked of me. I'm also the cook. We don't have an official cook on board because this is considered a small crew and small ship. I was cooking lunch every day for my crew and many dinners too. Generally, you're on your own for breakfast and dinner. I was so good at my job that the captain and the chief mate passed their duties on to me so they can just sit back and relax. Chief mates and captains have a lot of paperwork to do, but I was handling that for them too up until this point. Well, one day, I'm just completely burnt out with these 15 to 18 hour days. I get into a discussion about how the captain and company is stealing my wages because I'm working more than 12 hours a day. I asked him if I could show up to watch an hour later than my scheduled duty. The engine department does this when they require their folks to work overtime the day before. I worked a swing shift, which overlaps both the captain and the chief mate, so it's not unheard of or uncommon to let guys show up late, especially if they worked more than 12 hours the previous day. Well, once I asked to sleep in an extra hour, all heck broke loose with him insulting me, calling me names, being racist. Nobody wants to work anymore, blah blah blah. Just nasty, inappropriate behavior that shouldn't happen, but happens all the time in this industry. He then finishes the verbal beatdown with a crap-eating grin. You know, mate, you never had to work overtime. You could have just said no. I was steaming at this point, but I just replied with, okay, roger that. I called it a day and went to bed. Cue malicious compliance. The next day, I'm already on watch and he comes to work and asks me what's for lunch. Nothing, I'm not cooking today. Did you pull out anything from the freezer at least? Nope. So nobody had any real food for lunch. They all made sandwiches and ate chips instead. Later that day, hey, I need you to go finish painting the rescue boat. The guys are busy with other projects and I want this done today. Well, Captain, since it's not in my job description, I respectfully decline. We get into a little argument, but he concedes. The very next day, he pulls the same thing. What's for lunch? Nothing. What do we have that we can cook real fast? I don't know, Captain. I didn't check. Cooking isn't my job, remember? So I don't plan on doing it. He rushes to cook some whole chickens in an hour, and they came out raw and really ticked off the crew. Nobody touched his food. This routine lasted a whole week until it was the end of my tour and I got to go home. I returned to duty a month later, and he thought I would forget or let it slide. I indeed did not forget or let it slide. For the next entire month-long tour, the captain had to do the cooking because the chief mate and I refused to do it, and he complained because he had to wake up early and prep food. I was already doing all that when I was cooking. I just didn't complain. I enjoy cooking, but I was willing to die on this hill. I wasn't letting go. I refused to let him win this battle. I did not cook one meal. To be petty, I made myself delicious food, did not share it. I refused any work that wasn't in my job description. What's he gonna do? Write me up on disciplinary for not doing someone else's job that isn't mine? Or for not working past 12 hours? Not happening. Understand, at this point, I was physically tired, burned out, mentally drained from doing everybody's job and taking crap from him. I asked for a transfer to another ship but got denied, so I'm still stuck on the ship with this captain, but now he knows where I stand, and I haven't cooked or done extra duty since. And that's what you get for taking advantage of a good worker and always insulting me. OP added an edit down at the bottom of the story. It says, I forgot to add that one of the reasons for not getting a transfer is because nobody is easily willing to come here and work with this guy. One day during that hitch, I came up to the bridge and overheard him talking to the assignment manager about keeping me here permanently because he's a good mate, he's prior military, and he can cook, blah blah blah. I was supposed to be a floater, filling in positions on different boats as needed, which is what I like. Well, that worked out well. Jumping down to the comment section below this one, there's one from a user called Batman Handler. It quotes OP saying, I'm a very hard worker, a team player, and never say no to work. They said, found your problem. OP responded and said, in my experience, the reward for good work is more work. I learn slow. There's another comment down below from a user called Random Person of the Day. It says, love how you basically told your captain to F right off, and he had no choice but to comply. It's not like it was your job in the first place. Captain F'd around and found out. Can you keep applying for a transfer until they finally concede? Or is it something you got denied and you're stuck with it unless you quit type of thing? OP responded to this one and said, occasionally there's openings on other ships that get posted looking for certain positions. For now, I just keep asking my assignment manager for new boats, but he says my position has all been crewed up permanent rotations. But rumor has it Captain is being assigned to an overseas ship soon, which is to his benefit and mine. The whole ship would benefit actually. We have a good crew except for this captain. He literally sucks the soul out of you, and I do this mental gymnastics 1 month at a time. Well, OP, if you happen to stay on this boat once that captain is gone, you really need to think about not doing all that extra stuff again, or at least a very small portion of it, but make sure you're staying within your hours, and make sure they know that you're going outside of your duties, and you could stop doing this at any time. Don't let people take advantage of you. That happens way too much in the working world. Whether you're on a boat or in a building somewhere, it's the same. The people higher up want to get as much work out of you as possible for the lowest wage possible. That's just how it works. Our next story today comes to us from Miraculous Ladybug 93. Cancel the service? You bet. Let's jump right in. I work in roadside assistance as a third party for a lot of insurance companies. Like most customer service jobs, we get a heck of a lot of abuse, but the most of it comes from long wait times and or not being fully covered. This happens often, but I very rarely am in the position where I get to see the fallout. Recently, I had a woman call in. She was completely pleasant, but in a huge rush, so she was a little snippy. No worries, I get it. But then it comes to letting her know that she is not covered for assistance and she has a huge out-of-pocket expense. She whines about the fact that she knows she has roadside, then that she supposedly set up the service earlier, so not only am I trying to charge her, but it's taking too long, and therefore the price should be waived. Finally, she gives up and tells me I'm useless and says, "Just cancel it," and hangs up. Being the good rep that I am, I call her back to confirm the disconnect was intentional. She picks up, then hangs up immediately, then sends me to voicemail on follow-up calls. So as instructed, I cancel the job request. I should note, intake doesn't take long, but it's annoying to go over, and if the customer doesn't know their exact location, like being on a freeway, it can take some time. A few hours later, I get a new call from an angry customer wondering where her service is at. I apologize for the frustration, ask for her reference number, and inform her that unfortunately, there isn't any service in the system. She starts going off. I do my best to calm her down and extract the needed information. Halfway through the call, I realize it's the same angry pants woman as before. When we start going over location, I remember the drop-off location and she gets excited and says, "Oh, you found my service? Is the driver on the way? It's ridiculous that it's taking this long. You should get this prioritized or expedited." To which I reply in my nicest CSR voice, "No ma'am, your service isn't in the system. I remember when we spoke earlier. As you requested, I canceled the job at that time. So it's only getting open now and the amount will be this." "That's more than it was earlier." Yes, the pricing changes throughout our day to continuously match the market, stay competitive, and incentive drivers to continue taking jobs at unpopular times. She was silent. Also, we have longer ETAs at this time, so you will want to get this payment taken care of ASAP so we can find a service provider to avoid a longer wait. I can send a text message to you to complete payment." She stutters, But I never told you to cancel it before." Starting to lose patience. "Ma'am, our calls are recorded. I notate obsessively, and I called you back multiple times trying to confirm." "I want to speak to your supervisor," ranting to make me scared. "No problem, one moment. It looks like there is currently a 20-minute wait for a supervisor. I'm happy to wait with you." "Fine then, get my service started." "Certainly, I'll send the text for payment." She finally broke down and paid it and gave up waiting for a supervisor. She swore up and down that she was going to report me. Either way, I felt vindicated with my tiny bit of malicious compliance. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Motor1 is stopping. It quotes OP when they said, "I'm happy to wait with you." They said, "That would be awesome. Both of you sitting on the phone hating each other and saying nothing while waiting for the supervisor to enter the fray and get completely blindsided by the fury that has already erupted." OP responded to this one and said, "Oh, it's always my favorite. We don't have supervisor callbacks until the service is completed. So at least once a week, I get paid to scroll Reddit or a webtoon while listening to the muffled ranting of an angry customer stuck on the side of the road." Well, this was a very interesting story for me because my last job, literally right before I became KCC, was as a tow truck driver, and I was the one who went to those people on the side of the road who had been there for a bunch of hours, but I had literally just gotten that call about 20 minutes before. So I would walk into a crap storm of vitriol, but that was just the way it went. So it was really interesting for me to read this story and get some insight into another part of the job, because these were the people who put the notes on the calls that I had to go to that said that the customer was here, but they were actually 10 kilometers further up the road. Yeah, that happens. This next story comes to us from ConnectBasket2698. You must work the weekend. Let's jump right in. I was an IT contractor for a company doing a large new project. There were about 30 people writing code. We were allowed as much overtime as we were willing to work, and I could use the money. I was working 12 hours, 5 days a week. On the weekends, I would go racing, usually out of state. It was common on Thursday to get called into a meeting saying we needed to work 8 hours Saturday, 4 on Sunday. Most people would have 52 hours in total. I would do it if available, putting me at 72 or 76 since 4 hours is stupid. Other times, I would point out I would already be at 60 and had plans. I was given an exception the first couple of times. Then I was told I was not being a team player. So I clarify, if I work 12 hours between 5 p.m. Friday and 9 a.m. Monday, is that good? Yes, well, okay then. I left the office at 9 p.m. on Friday, 4 of the 12 down. The race trailer was already loaded up and ready to go. I headed out in the morning for a 4-hour drive. After the race, I headed back. Since I was driving near the office and the parking lot was empty, I pulled in trailer and all around 3 a.m. I figured just badging in wasn't enough to demonstrate compliance. I sent an email out to the group with every task I completed. I completed everything I had been assigned. There was a whiteboard with unassigned tasks. I sent an email that I was pulling a task, then another when completed. I had my full hours in at 11 a.m. I was being a smart butt. However, I didn't really expect the manager to get as annoyed about it as he did. A bit later, my contract was cut by that manager for my abrasive personality. The fallout seems to have been against me, but not in the end. My contract was cut. I was told on a Thursday morning and given the next 3 full weeks' notice. By Thursday afternoon, I had a job interview scheduled for Monday. By Monday afternoon, I had a couple more scheduled. I started a new position with no gap. That is pretty much the malicious compliance. Below is the fallout from the retaliation. The manager blamed the abrasive personality comment on the business. They are the people asking for and defining the project. I only worked with one. During my notice, I was working with her. I said something about someone else having to do the next phase. She says, yeah, that sucks. After giving cat butt face, I tell her that I was told the business wanted me gone. Since she was the only business I dealt with, wavy hand motion. She just got a pissed look and stormed off. Her anger went up the organizational tree and back down my branch. Manager was told, I want OP on this project, deal with it. I had multiple people, HR, managers, peers, etc. ask me if I wanted to stay. They would have to make the crap hit the fan to do so. They didn't want to do that if I was leaving anyway. I said I already had accepted an offer. I just wished he had to be the one to ask me to stay. He was made to ask me if I could extend the notice period to provide training sessions on my techniques. So you want my productivity, just not me? Well, yeah. No, I am already scheduled to start a new position. During my notice, 12 people found new positions and gave their notice. The attitude was that if the company was willing to cut me, they could cut anyone at any time. They would rather leave on their own terms. That was not a problem for coders at that particular point in time. I was still working 60 hours a week during my notice period. On my last day, when leaving, the only person still there was that manager's boss. When I said bye, he said he had meant to talk to me before I left. I sat down and talked. I said, you must be wondering why I would be working late on my last day. I wanted the section of software I was on to be working before I left, so no one could blame me for it not getting done. I said I was the only one left in the last few months who was working on it. All tests had passed that day. Another section with similar work has 6 people working on it and is not done. He began to question the manager's decision making. He thanked me and said he may reach out in the future. A couple months later, someone reached out to me to see if I would come back. The manager's contract was cut, as were the other 3 people from his contract house. An employee who was buddies with the manager was moved off the project. Apparently, since the manager was also a contractor, he could not technically cut my contract. It was done by this employee. I didn't go back as my new abrasive personality manager and I got along great. It definitely sounds like that company learned if they're willing to get rid of one of their good top performers, well, that's gonna make everybody else wary about their job and maybe not wanting to work there anymore. In OP's case though, if they were a contractor yet the business was dictating their hours, it sounds like the business just wanted them to be contractors to maybe get around some tax laws, because if they were dictating the hours like that, that kind of makes you an employee. I don't know what the tax implications are there, but there's definitely something. I'm sure somebody smarter than me will comment on it down below, and I'm really interested to see how that works. Check out all 3 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.